I did it again. I did it again. I was muted this whole time. Oh boy. I was muted this whole time. How long was that? 10 minutes of muted. Whew. There's got to be some sort of warning message for that. You know, when I go into Zoom, like when I use Zoom, if I'm muted and I'm talking, it'll give me a little warning message on the screen that, hey, it looks like you're talking, but you're muted. Stream, Labs, OBS needs something like that. Let's start over, shall we? Whew. All right, so welcome to another episode. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Live Coding with Matt Groves here on Twitch. And this is the 15th episode I've done of this so far. Today I'm thinking about getting back into some EFCore. Working on an EFCore 3 provider for Couchbase. You know, EFCore 3 has a lot of providers out there. There's not a Couchbase one yet. EFCore is still in beta, I believe, as well, or still in preview. So thought it would be a good time to try playing around with that and working on an EFCore 3 provider for Couchbase. Okay, so that's what I'm thinking about doing. The motto for this room, this is kind of an unofficial motto, but I say it every episode, is that the only stupid question is the one you don't ask. So even if you're not interested in EFCore 3, if you have questions about anything else going on, what language I'm using, what is this program right here, what's your desktop background, what's with your t-shirt, any question you want is a good question, all right? So don't think your question is too stupid to ask, because I don't subscribe to that, not for 1 second. There's always an opportunity for someone to learn. So if you have a question, ask away. Okay, let's see. Yeah, Team Live Coder. So if you were watching, I was showing you this on the screen, but you couldn't hear me talking. This is a Twitch team which I'm a member of. It's just a team of people who are doing live coding, building cool tech stuff. C# Fritz is like the head coach, the team captain, or whatever. He's streaming right now, actually, so you can see all the team members here. It's just me and Fritz streaming, but there's others who stream from time to time. They're in different time zones, different topics, so check out this Twitch team. It's twitch.tv/team/livecoders, and you can see some people streaming there. All kinds of interesting topics. All right, and the other one is the Awesome Developers streaming list, of which I'm also listed here. This is more of a loose text file of developers who are streaming various topics. Doesn't have to be Twitch. It could be YouTube, Periscope, Facebook, Mixer, whatever else is out there. People streaming and all kinds of different topics. And the great thing about this list is if you go to github/bnb/awesome developer streams, you can just do Control F to find topics that you're interested in. So I'm mostly talking about databases and Couchbase and back-end stuff. But there are others who are doing Python or game development or HTML or what have you, CSS. And so you can, if you're interested in those topics, you can just do a Control F and find someone who's streaming and check out their stream, check out their past videos, and away you go. There's tons of people listed here who are streaming. So definitely check that out. Awesome Developers streaming. All right, what else? Yep, there it is. GrovesTube, so I showed you this on the screen as well, but all my Twitch streams, they get saved to Twitch for like 30 days-ish, something like that. So I also save them, I export them over to YouTube, which Twitch kindly has an export to YouTube button. And so you can check those videos out, check out the history. I also, from time to time, make highlight clips, which are short clips from the live stream of interesting things that I think are worth highlighting and showing on their own. I also export those to YouTube, so you can check those out. So if you go to bit.ly/GrovesTube, bit.ly/GrovesTube, you can see all those videos I've exported from Twitch to YouTube. Check out the old history there. And you can leave comments and questions there on YouTube. One of these days, I might start streaming to YouTube, like a simulcast sort of thing. I don't know. We'll see how that. We'll see, maybe I'll experiment with that. I've done that in the past. What else? All right, upcoming webinar. So I also showed this on the screen, but you couldn't hear me talking about it. Webinar tomorrow, live webinar being presented tomorrow. This is a Couchbase webinar. I know not everyone likes the term webinar, and I'm sort of with you on that. I understand. It's kind of a lame term, but this is a very technical webinar. This is about data modeling in JSON, and you notice there's no the word Couchbase isn't even in the title, right? And this is presented by DZone, but it's presented by Couchbase employees and/or partners. If you're interested in data modeling, because data modeling when you're storing JSON documents is very different from data modeling when you're in relational databases. And so if you've ever tried getting into JSON databases, that's probably been one of the main issues you've thought about is, well, how do I model this? If I can store arrays, and how do I model, how do I split up my data and that sort of thing. So you can see the description here. They cover all these things. How do I query my stuff? And there's lots of different options. So what's the best option for me to do data modeling? So sign up for that. This is a free webinar tomorrow. It's not going to be quite as interactive as like a Twitch stream is right now with the chat room and everything, but it will be. I think it will be interactive. They'll be taking questions and stuff. So definitely check that out. And I will not be delivering this tomorrow. This will be someone else, I believe, from my team who's delivering this. It'll not be me. So if you're sick of me, you can check out somebody else talking about JSON for once. And I made a nice little bit.ly link for you here. If you don't want to copy this nonsense down, you can just go to bit.ly/JSON webinar, sign up for that, and check it out tomorrow. Speaking of that, I was recently a presenter at the Nomad.js. This is an online meetup, which I prefer that term to webinar, but this is an online meetup. And they just kicked off or just rebranded this meetup as Nomad JavaScript, and they gave me an opportunity to be one of the first presenters. I really appreciate that. It's a really cool group, some great people running it, and they present them live, of course, but then they make the videos available afterwards. So they made mine available recently. I did also a presentation on JSON data modeling. It's different than the content. There's going to be a lot of overlap, but it's different content than what's going to be at the webinar tomorrow, but it's still worth checking out. You can check it out at your leisure. That's nomadjs.com/videos. Definitely check that out. And sign up for Nomad to see the future meetups they're going to be presenting. All right, TwitchBot. I mentioned this. I've already got it running here. TwitchBot, all my TwitchBot does is just basically log your chat messages. So if you put something in the chat room, I will save that message. And I can then query it to see, for instance, who's the chattiest in the room, or I don't know what else I'm going to do with it. Eventually, just kind of in the data collection phase right now, not doing anything terribly interesting with it. But you're kind of always required to write a TwitchBot when you're live coding on Twitch. So I did. And since I'm into databases and backend, that's what I went with. I went with a chatbot that stores data into a database. All right. Okay. So plan today, now that the audio is actually broadcasting and I'm not muted anymore, is two things. So one, and since C# Fritz is already streaming, this might be a good time to do this because he's going to have a lot of the audience over there instead of with me, which is cool. Like he's the head coach. He's sort of kicked off this whole thing. So obviously people are going to check him out over me. But since that's the case, this is a good chance for me to do something, a little bit of behind the scenes work, I guess. Last Thursday, I was showing off some of the features of Couchbase, and we were going through the query advisor and running the query, and I came across a few things that seemed like they might be bugs or areas for improvement, either in documentation or in the software itself. So I wrote those down, and I haven't submitted them yet to any of we use Jira at Couchbase and GitHub issues. I haven't submitted it anywhere yet because I'm currently using an older build of Couchbase. So let me just bring it up here on the screen. I'm using an internal build, so this is not one that's publicly available, but I can log in here and show you that I am on build 2796. However, there are, if I can find it, I downloaded this already. There are newer builds that are currently available. So for instance, I downloaded revision 3516. So I am a few hundred revisions behind the internal build with this version that I've discovered these issues on. So what I need to do is I need to get a recent build and see if those issues are still there, because they may have been fixed in the meantime. So I want to waste anybody's time by submitting an issue that's already been fixed. And of course, when I submit these issues, I will search to see if anyone else has submitted them or something similar before I submit my own. That's just good practice. It's a good idea. It's a common courtesy to do that. Just like when you go to a forum to ask a question or go to Stack Overflow, you should always search to see if someone else has asked the question already. So I'm thinking about doing that, and what I have to do is I have to uninstall my current version of Couchbase. Now, in production, this is probably not a good idea, because that would be downtime for you to actually uninstall your database to do an upgrade. That means downtime. So in production, typically with Couchbase, you have a distributed cluster. So you have a bunch of machines that are all running Couchbase together as one cluster. And so what you can do is you can do a rolling upgrade. You can upgrade one node at a time. So your cluster is still up and still serving your customers, but you're in the process of upgrading to a newer version. I'm not going to do that because I just have a single node running on my local machine, so I can't really do that sort of thing. I don't have a cluster over here in the other corner of my office, or I'm not running this on a cloud provider. I'm not running it in Docker. It's all running locally on bare metal here. So that's typically what I do. Is I have a preview build, an internal build running. I'm getting dropped frames now. Man, this stream's just not going well for me. Whew. 10% a few seconds ago. So I'm going to keep monitoring that. If this keeps getting bad, I may just have to pull the cord on this stream and call it and take a mulligan, because the problems I've been having with the muting and the drop frames, I don't like it, not one bit. But anyway, I will keep on soldiering on here, monitoring those drop frames as we go. But anyway, so I need to uninstall this, and what I normally do is I have a internal build running on the bare metal, and then I have a lot of the public builds running in Docker, because they all have Docker images available on public Docker Hub. So the reason I do this is because people ask questions in the forum or chat rooms or whatever else, and they're like, "Oh, I'm using Couchbase version this, and this is the problem that I'm seeing." So I have to be able to switch between all the different versions to help answer questions. And the best way that I found to do this is to just keep a bunch of Docker images ready. So if people have questions for a version as old as 4.1 community, I can fire up that Docker image and try to reproduce all the way up to Enterprise 6.01, which is the latest public release of Couchbase. So Docker is fine. I just need to uninstall the bare metal version of Couchbase. So I thought it might be a good time to do that. Even if this stream completely bombs out, I'll at least get that accomplished today, and then I can start checking those issues that I found. Relatively minor bugs, but still, they should probably be addressed, or at least be tracked. So the problem with that is that I'm currently using this bare metal Couchbase instance for a number of quote important data stores. So the first one is Twitch chat, right? This is the Twitch bot. It's actually storing messages to my Couchbase bucket here called Twitch chat. 408 messages in there. I don't want to lose those, so I'm going to have to back that up before I uninstall Couchbase. And the other one is my family photos. I've got two buckets here, family photos and the family photos hangfire bucket, which manages my background tasks. This is a lot of important data for me because I'm indexing and tagging and running Azure machine learning against all of my collection of family photos. And so I don't want to lose this data. The photos themselves aren't stored here. It's just metadata about the photos. So I want to back that up as well. The rest of this stuff is not terribly important. Travel sample, that's just a sample that comes with Couchbase. Drop frames are 11% now. Man, oh man. Okay, well, if anyone's out there watching, let me know if it's that bad. I'm going to keep going. All right, survey results public. This is just the Stack Overflow data, so I can easily re-import that if I need to. Scavenger hunt. This is just some local test data, some apps that I've been working with. And EF test is the entity framework bucket, and that's only got 2 items, so no big deal. So what I actually have for what I do for my there's lots of ways to back up data, but one of the easiest things to do is I can just export the data from a bucket to a JSON file. And for my family photos, this is what I have done in the past. And this is, again, not a recommended practice for production. There's lots of problems with this, but I'll rename the old JSON file, which you can see is about 14 meg. And then I've written a PowerShell script to export that JSON data to the familyphotos.json file. I did this earlier today, but there's background jobs running all the time, so there may be some changes, but it looks like no. So it's exactly the same data, so delete the old photos. And just to show you what's in that export PowerShell script is not much. There's a CB export command that comes with Couchbase. Export data to JSON, you just specify the where the cluster is, the credentials, the bucket, what format you want to use, and how you want to output it, and whether or not you want to include the key ID in the JSON data. And I want to do all those things. I want to do those same exact things. I don't care about the hang fire because that's all data that's generated by a background job that's using hang fire. So all those items, I don't care if they go away because the way I've written my background jobs is that, you know, if they fail, no big deal. I don't need to retry them or keep track of them. They're not that many jobs and not that long running, so I don't need to worry about those. So I don't care about backing that up. I do need to back up Twitch chat. This is very important. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to stop the Twitch bot because I'm going to be in the middle of exporting the data and I don't want any new messages to be coming in. Although right now it's pretty quiet in the chat room. As I mentioned, C# Fritz is streaming right now. So let's go ahead and I'm going to just go to my desktop to back these files up. All right, and so it is going to be C, program files, Couchbase, server, bin, and then CB export. Okay, I'm going to export to JSON, and cluster is localhost. Localhost, username, administrator, P, password. Also, not good practice in production to use such terrible credentials. The bucket is Twitch chat. And the format is going to be, let's go with list. I don't know if it really matters. And we'll output to Twitch chat JSON. And the last thing I want to do is I want to include key, and includes the key in the export document and specifies a name for the field the key is included in. So I'm going to call that, I don't know, Couchbase document key. Let's run it. I could specify more threads if I wanted to, but it's a very, very small bucket, so there's no reason to bring threads into this or anything like that. All right. So it is done exporting that data, and you can see there it is. And I thought I would just open that up in like Notepad or something, just to take a quick look at it. There it is, JSON file. So there it is. This is the raw JSON, and you can see it's a list, so you can see it's one giant JSON array. But there we go. We've got all this stuff here. So here's a message from Calvin, for instance. It's the first one it's storing. We're talking about education, bachelor's degree, associate's degrees, and so on. And I also want to make sure to check the Couchbase document keys in here. It's all just GUIDs. The GUIDs aren't really meaningful, so I don't really care. I could just reproduce those with some other random key. So I might just ultimately ignore this, but I do want to have it just in case. Okay, so I've got Twitch chat JSON data backed up. If I was really smart, what I would do is before I uninstall Couchbase, I would actually take Twitch chat and back it up somewhere else, somewhere off-site, because you never know what could happen. Power could go out while I'm in the middle of an upgrade, or my hard drive could die, and now my Twitch data is gone forever. So before I do anything else, I'm going to copy it over to Dropbox, get it copied out there in the cloud, so that worst case, I can have some disaster recovery from Dropbox. We're still in the drop frame zone. It's just not working out for me right now. So I'm going to take a little break. It may be, my kids are home from school now. They may be hitting the online streaming pretty hard. So I'm going to go up there and see what the situation is. I'm going to take a quick break. Be right back. Okay, see you in a second. So my kids were streaming some YouTube. I don't know if that's really affecting it or not, but I turned off the streaming, so maybe that'll help. The kids took it really well. They understood what I was doing, so they're cool. And they're being so good today. They're actually doing the dishes and cleaning up the kitchen on their own, but they just had YouTube streaming in the living room as well. So I really hated to do that to them because they're being so well behaved. But trying to address the problem here with the dropped frames, which says right now we're at 16% dropped frame, which is not good, not good at all. Anyway, so I've got this stuff backed up. I've got Twitch chat backed up. I've got family photos backed up. Are there anything else I need to back up? So indexes is another one, and I think for the most part, my family photos, I'm not going to back up the indexes, but I do have the scripts to create those indexes. They're already inside the Family Photos program, and the Hangfire ones are generated automatically by Hangfire. There's nothing in Twitch chat except for a primary key, so no big deal there. So I think we're all good. Don't have any views. I don't use views anymore. I do have some analytics data sets, but those are not a big deal. Those can be easily recreated. I do have a text index for Twitch, but it was just ad hoc. Don't really care about that. So I think we're all good. I think I'm ready to back everything up. No XDCR. Okay. All right. So, man, we're still dropping frames. So I'm going to shut down my web server. I just have that Family Photos app is just running on my local web server. So I'll shut that down. And I'm going to shut down Couchbase here. The way I'm going to do that is just go to Services and Couchbase Server and stop. And some days I get these streaming messages, and some days I don't. I don't really understand it. We're up to like 4 to 5,000 kbs according to Streamlabs here. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, well, if you have any tips for improving that, let me know. But okay, so I've got Couchbase shut down, I've got my website shut down. Now, again, in production, you don't want to shut down your website. You don't want to shut down your database. You want to be able to do rolling upgrades on these. So you'd have a load balancer for the website, and you'd have, for Couchbase, you'd have a distributed website. But I'm just doing this local. This is all local dog fooding type stuff, not production quality. So uninstall Couchbase Server Enterprise Edition. And yes, I've been using Enterprise Edition. Enterprise Edition, like I said, this is an internal build. You can't get, but the 6.0 release of Enterprise Edition is totally a free download for you right now. If you're just exploring, you're just checking it out, Enterprise has all the features. Totally free for you to try out in pre-production, and there's no limit on it or anything like that. So just go, if you're interested in Couchbase, get the Enterprise version, try it out. The community version is totally free for production. But there are a few differences between it and Enterprise. So I'd recommend, if you're just getting started, check out the Enterprise version, because it's going to have all the latest and greatest stuff. Even if you don't end up using some of that latest and greatest stuff and you want to go back to community, still start with Enterprise would be my advice. It's easier to start there and experience the best of Couchbase, and then you can downgrade to just what you need. Would be my advice to you. But both are available as free downloads. This is taking a while to uninstall. So hopefully nothing hung or anything like that. Let me just check Task Manager out real quick here. Doesn't look like it. Yeah, everything looks like it's shut down okay. I haven't got a Streamlabs warning message here in a minute or so that's good. So I've got this. This is the Couchbase Enterprise Edition 3516. So I'm going from 2796 to 3516. So what is that? How many revisions is that? 3516 minus 2796. 720 revisions. And if you look at the, if you were able to look at the internal history like me, you would see that there's probably anywhere from 6 to 10 builds a day, internal builds of Couchbase Server. I'm not trying to install the absolute latest one, but this is one that was built on a Sunday, I think on a Sunday. So there's only one build on a Sunday. Still getting dropped frames, man. Oh man. This is probably the perfect stream for me to do this kind of upgrade, because it's pretty boring, I guess, to do an upgrade. But I have a small audience, and I'm dropping frames like crazy, so I think I picked the perfect day to do this. However, it's taking much longer to uninstall than normally does. I'm wondering if this is because I'm Streamlabbing at the same time, and Streamlab takes up... Oh, it was waiting for me to give it permission. That's what the problem was. Oh, man. Man, oh man. Let me just get a quick distraction here from Slack and Twitter, see what's going on. Nothing much happening. Just waiting for Couchbase to uninstall. 3 minutes remaining. It still seems very slow. This is usually a pretty quick uninstall. So, I don't know what's going on here. Got some new followers here. Eric the Cheat is a new follower. Deadbeat Dad 7. Interesting choice of names there. Pat 1567. Some recent followers. So thank you very much for the follow, everyone. Even if you're not in the room right now, it looks like you followed me during my when I wasn't live streaming. So I appreciate that. Okay, we're done. So now I'm going to install this, and this is Windows, so I'm going to install the Couchbase Server Enterprise for Windows. I've never done this before. With this, excuse me, this build. And I'm already getting a smart screen message. That's because I think I downloaded the unsigned version of this, but yeah, I'm sure it's safe. This is an internal build. This is not malware I downloaded from some random site. Okay, so I got the wizard here, 3516. I'm accepting those terms, blah, blah, blah. And yep, looks like a good folder. And we're going to stick with IPv4, install. So this could all completely bomb out, for all I know. This could all completely fail because this is an internal build, and you know, it's not a build meant for public release. So we'll see how this goes, but it should be fine. We're pretty far along in the 6.5 builds internally, so I don't expect it to be wildly unstable, but you never know. Still rocking my no touchy. It's not going to like that. No touchy cup. This might be a good reason to get a real green screen, is if I want to show stuff on the screen. Chroma key or chroma cam seems to pull everything out. Still dropping frames. Let me see if I can show you this on the screen. This is what Streamlabs is telling me. About 16% dropped frames, and that's been increasing in the last 20 minutes. Which is not good. Not good at all. Alright, so Couchbase Server installation is complete. So the next thing is setup. So I'll just bring up the browser here. So I'm going to just copy this. We're going to set up a new cluster. I'm going to call it that so I have the build name right in the name of the cluster. Good old administrator and username administrator, and password is password. Very top security practices here, not. Okay, terms and conditions. And I can just skip it and finish with the defaults, but I'm actually going to do some configuration here. Okay. All right, so I can change the folders if I want to. I can specify my own Java runtime if I want to. And this is where I specify how much memory I want to give to these things. So for analytics, I'm going to keep it probably 2 gig. Venting's fine, search is fine, index is fine. For data, I don't necessarily want to give it 18 gig of RAM. Let's stick with like 9 gig of RAM. I think I can increase this later. Pretty sure I can. Or decrease it later, but that's probably a good place to start. Yeah, so I'm giving it almost 12 gig of RAM to work with there. Couchbase is a very RAM-heavy database. It's a memory-first database, so that's just the way it goes. All right, save and finish that. Okay, all right, so there we go. Now it's up and running. Of course, there are no buckets here, so we're going to need to add some buckets, and one of them is family photos. I'm going to keep that at 100 meg. I don't need a ton of those photos in memory, so I'm going to keep the memory quota at 100 meg, and we're going to add family photos, hang fire. Also, don't need to give it a ton of memory because I'm just one user for a dog food type of app. And I also need Twitch chat. Also keep that 100 meg. I'm not pulling a lot of those. I don't need the whole database to be resident, although 100 meg should be more than enough to keep it all resident for the small amount of data that I have. All right. Back to the command line. So I've got Twitch chat here, and so I use CB export to get the data out. I'm going to use, you guessed it, CB import to pull the data in. So I'm going to import JSON, and the cluster is localhost, username is administrator, password is password, bucket is Twitch chat, format is, if I believe it was list, right? And I specify the file, right? Which is it doesn't really say where to. Oh yeah, /d, and it's going to be file : // and I called it twitchchat.json, I believe. Key generator contains empty expression. Okay. So I can generate key, and that I just use what did I call it? Trying to remember here. Recent files. Where's my Oh, I forgot I moved it out the Dropbox because I was paranoid. Okay, put it back on the desktop here. There it is. Twitch chat, okay, so it wasn't finding it. Let's try this again. Okay, so it does need a key. I do need to specify a key. Oh, it looked like it was optional, but I'm wondering what that is. So I called it, here's my JSON. I called it, what did I call it? Couchbase document key. G, and I think I do it like this. Just put parentheses around it. Okay, so 408 documents imported, 0 failed, which is exactly what I expect. And there we go. Got all the documents imported. Now, one side effect of this is that Couchbase document key is in the data itself, which doesn't really need to be there. So we're holding steady at 16% dropped frames now. I don't know what's going on. So what I could do is I could just update Twitch chat, unset Couchbase document key. Yep. Oh, I don't have a index on Twitch chat. This is kind of, you've probably not seen unset before in a relational database because there's no concept of removing a field from a piece of data. But unset will just remove a field. So I don't need that Couchbase document key inside the data. So I'll just remove it. And so we can go in here and see that we no longer have Couchbase document key in here. But the key itself is right there. That's the same key that I started with, and there we have it. Okay. And let's do the OneDrive pictures metadata. Okay, so we're going to do a similar thing. We're going to import. However, I think I call the key something different in my JSON file here. Family photos, there it is. I called it _ID. Okay, so we're going to make this _ID in a different bucket now. It's going to be family photos. And was it also a list? Also a list. I don't know why I chose list over lines. It doesn't really make much difference for what I'm doing. Okay, failed. Why did it fail? Cannot find the file specified. Oh, because it's not Twitch chat.json, obviously. It is family photos.json. This will take a little longer, and I'm not using any threads still. So, okay, 12,000 documents. And you can see the UI is kind of catching up here, but there we go. 12,000 documents. And these all have that ID field in them. It's fine, I'll leave it there for now, but you can see that the key actually matches this sort of dummy ID field in the data. So I could also unset this, but you know, I do this often enough that it's not really worth me messing around with that. It's harmless, I'll leave it in there. Okay. So then I'm going to fire up my web server. I may not be ready to do that because I have to create indexes. But I'll leave it there for now. I'll fire it up later. Just make a note to myself. Because I have to run some like migration scripts to recreate those indexes that I need for family photos. And Hangfire is going to have to run and create its own indexes and stuff like that too. So I will save that for later. I don't want to get sidetracked into the Family Photos app in the stream, because all I really wanted to do was get this version installed, and I do have it installed. So what I can do now is I can take a look at some of those bugs that I saw and see if they're still happening. Or I could switch over to EFCore. I think I'm going to go ahead and look at some of those possible bugs. So one of the bugs I saw was with the advisor. I created a cruises bucket on Thursday. We were talking about cruises a lot. It's great. Just got back from vacation. And what I was doing was I was showing off, let me clear this history. I was showing off the query advisor. Oh, which reminds me, the query advisor is not showing up yet, because the query advisor is something that is a developer preview feature. So I had to enable that. And I cannot remember the command for that. Here it is. So it is simply a command line. There's a couple ways to do this, but I'll run it from the command line. So let's see, program files, Couchbase, server bin, and is a Couchbase CLI. And I'm going to enable developer preview on the local cluster. This is 9091. I wonder if that's really it. Then provide the credentials. Turn off the screen here. Password, and then enable. Let's see if that works. It might be a typo. Are you sure you want to enter developer? Right, so developer preview is designed for us to ship features. It's kind of like if you ever heard of the feature flag paradigm before. For us to ship features for developers to check out and try out and use and give us some feedback on. However, these are not designed to be used in production. So that's what this message is saying here. Don't use production. And if you're in developer preview mode, you cannot upgrade from that. So because these are features that the API may break. Okay, I'm pretty sure it's a typo. It should be 8091. Let's try this again. Okay, there we go. So now we're in developer preview mode. So if I refresh this UI here, you'll see the advice button show up, because now we're in developer preview mode. Okay, excellent. So I've created this cruises bucket. It has no indexes on it. So if I go to indexes here, you'll see that the only index I have is on the Twitch chat bucket. And the behavior I was seeing, not a bug necessarily, is if I go and try to enter a query into cruises. So if I just said select star from cruises, for instance, that probably is good enough. Execute that. It's going to fail. But then if I hit that's what I expect, but if I hit advice, it says no index recommendation at this time. Which is different than the behavior I saw before. So, okay, so we do have a change. So what it said before was index currently used / existing indexes are sufficient, which I thought was a misleading message. So, good. This is not a bug that I need to report. I will remove that from my document here, because this message here is good enough to say, hey, you need to create a primary index to even get started, and the advice just says no recommendation. Maybe the advice should say the same thing as execute at this point, but I'm much happier than that. It's not a misleading message. Okay. And the other thing I looked at was, okay, so now I'll go ahead and create a primary index on cruises. Although the way this will be easier, let's just go ahead and remove this. Don't need this anymore. I created a bucket for the Stack Overflow data called survey results public. I don't need to actually put data in there to test this, but I had run this query, and this would be I need to create a primary index. Create primary index on, what was it called? Survey results public. Did I make a typo? There we go. So I'd run this query. This is a relatively complex query. And I wanted to get some index advice on it because, you know, if it's using the primary index, it's going to be slow. So this is the complex query that I came up with. Execute that. And there's no data in there, so it's very fast right now. But when I clicked advice, yeah, okay. So it didn't hang this time, but I'm getting this unknown response from server message. So I'm going to just say this. Error message, unknown response from server. So that's better. It's not hanging. But you can see that if we look at the network, try this again, there's going to be a... Oh, maybe not. Yeah, it just says, okay, it's just unknown advice response. So it's not an error, but it's basically JavaScript itself is returning an error, even though it's status 200. Yeah, it doesn't know what to do with it. So I'm guessing that this is probably something they're aware of, but I'm going to make a note and see if I can find an issue and go from there. Okay. And the other issue, oh, we're down to 15% drop frames now, so we're getting better. And the other issue that I found, this is not in Couchbase itself, but it was in GitHub, documentation of Couchbase extensions, which we were using dependency injection for, is that the application, the example here shows iApplication lifetime. However, that has been deprecated in favor of iHost application lifetime. So what I think I should do is I'll just try a quick edit here and send a pull request off to replace this. All I need to do is edit it here in GitHub. I don't need to actually create a fork of it or anywhere else. But I think the rest of the code was exactly the same. So I'm just going to comment iApplication is deprecated. Instead. And it might be nice if I could include a link to some documentation about this. Because Visual Studio was telling me this, but it'd be nice if I could find Okay. So that might be it. I don't know. And while I'm at it, why don't I go ahead and fire up my Twitch bot, since that should be... Okay, there we go. No one had typed any messages, so haven't missed anything, but I wanted to make sure that the old Twitch bot was running again. So any message you type into chat, I'll just go ahead and give it a quick test. Yep, should show up and be logged. So I was, what, 408 before? Now 409. So everything's working fine there with Twitch, with the old Twitch bot. Okay, so I'm going to see if I can find some documentation here about iApplication lifetime being deprecated. Khalid, I've seen this guy on Twitter before, but this is an older post. Okay. Visual Studio says that iApplication lifetime has been deprecated in favor of iHost application lifetime. I couldn't find a documentation link that outlines this, but might want to take a look here. Outlines, I guess, what version this deprecation happened. This is, this is a proposed file change. This is probably more like a pull request. note. So I'm going to take this out, replacing example code, updating example code to use I host application lifetime instead of the deprecated I application lifetime. Propose that file change. Okay, so that's GitHub's going to make a fork of this for me and put it in my own repository, I think. Yeah. So then I'll create a pull request and post that little message there and create that pull request. So that'll be sent off to like Jeffrey Morris or Brant Burnett, and they will review that and discuss how best to proceed with that. I thought I'd bring it to their attention because I just noticed that. A developer using Visual Studio would see that and be no problem, but want to make sure the documentation is updated as best as possible. So that was it. So I still have one possible bug in the query advisor that I'm going to have to look for an issue and address, but everything else has been taken care of in the internal build. So we're in good shape here. All right. Let's switch over to Entity Framework Core. So I plan on streaming until about noon, Eastern U.S. time, and we're about 11 o'clock right now. So we're just over halfway. So let's bring up Entity Framework Core and just sort of see where I left off. So it was very, very basic stuff happening. Creating a, excuse me, this blog class, which has a key and 2 required fields, and I'm just using Entity Framework context, which I created right here, to try it out. Interesting that I have required here and required here. Anyway, let's just run this and see if it still works. Same credentials, same location as before, same bucket name. Looks like it worked, so I'll bring this up. EF test should have 1 document in it, and it does, in fact, have that. And I'm specifying an ID in this case. All right. What I probably don't need is I don't need this blog ID or this ID field to hang around in the actual document because that's up here. So it'd be nice if I could remove those from there. My discriminator is still blog. I probably want to call that, instead of discriminator, I want to call that type. So let's work on those 2 things today. So let's see. I can find discriminator somewhere. Where was that? Oh, not in the example project, that's for sure. So it's over in Couchbase. Here it is. So it's just adding a property to it. So I'm going to call this, let's call it, well, they're all uppercase here. Let's call it type. Okay, so I made that change. I'll run my sample project again. Because typically in Couchbase documentation examples, when you have a discriminator like that, it's usually called type. It's not called discriminator. So that's probably more idiomatic, I guess. There we go, type blog. What's also probably more idiomatic is these should be lowercase, but yeah, I'm not sure about that just yet. Okay, so that is probably its own commit. Probably should be a test for that too. I wonder if there's any existing tests, entire solution, that look for discriminator. It looks like a lot of these joins are using discriminator. That's fine. That stuff's all going to get ripped out anyway. What else? Yeah, all this stuff's going to have to go. Is there anything where... I'm looking for tests mainly. Well, so these are functional tests. Those are all going to fail. I'm not interested in query. Couch-based test store. What is this? Create from file. I don't know what this is doing. Is it putting some objects in there just ahead of time? It doesn't look like it's actually tests. It's just sort of setup code for tests. All right, well, what else? What else we got? Assert. Okay, so this is probably what I'm looking for. It's a test that says we created a discriminator property and set the discriminator value. So this test, I'm guessing, is going to fail. Let's just step through it and see what happens. Well, we're down to 14%, so the dropped frames are getting better. Slowly. Slowly but surely. Okay. Is that going to work? Entity type builder. Okay. Discriminator property. Okay. It's not null. Good. But however, this is probably not going to match. Yep, you can see right there it's type. So that's going to fail. Good. So I want this to be type instead of discriminator. Let's run that test again. We'll just run it without debugging now. And it passes. Great. Okay. What else we got? Any place else that is looking for that test? So this is in memory. I'm going to ignore that. Specifications, inheritance, test base. Use one prediction over derived type 2. This is in query, so I'm probably just going to ignore that for now. Model building, inheritance test base. This is in model building, so can set and remove base type. I don't know what this is testing. Some sort of pickle? What is that? Pickle is an ingredient. This looks like it's testing some sort of inheritance. Big Mac. Wow. Looks like they had a lot of fun. The Whooper. So they're testing mustard. Whooper and mustard. I love it. The old Whooper and mustard. I wonder if they did that because Whooper is copyrighted? Or maybe it's just a typo and it's just funny. Mooster, I don't think it's copyrighted. Okay. Well, I can certainly run this one. Oh, what is this? It's like multiple tests? Can set and remove base type. All right, well, let's just run it and see what happens. This is all about model building. Well, it's passing. Interesting. I don't know what this is actually testing. But, okay, seems to be fine. All right, so I made a change, and I made a change to a test. So I think it's okay to go ahead and commit this. Zproj, and this is right here. Commit. Change discriminator to type. I don't know what that is, but here's the convention. So, yeah, discriminator to type. And then over here in the test, change it from discriminator to type. And also here, discriminator to type. So that's good. Commit. Excellent. All right, back to my sample program. So what I was also doing is in these documents, I have a blog ID here, and that's the field in my C# class. I'm saying that's the key, and so it's also storing that in the actual JSON data, even though It's correctly storing it as the key value up here. These are two separate things. This one up here is different from this one down here. And it's also storing this ID, which seems like just a copy of blog ID. This is how I believe Cosmos stores IDs typically. It's like a magic field. It's an ID field. It's a reserved name for a field in the JSON document. Couchbase doesn't do that. It stores it as metadata up here. Somewhere else you can see metadata, and the ID is right there. So I don't want to store this in Couchbase. I don't want to store this in Couchbase. Those can go. So I have to look at, see where those are actually created, and just basically remove them. Okay, so these are going to be somewhere here in Couchbase, and probably metadata, I'm guessing. That's discriminator, store key convention. Yeah, right here. So I think this is where it's storing the key. Although, the thing is, so where it's actually using iBucket, this Couchbase client wrapper. So here is where I'm actually interfacing with the Couchbase SDK and storing the documents. So create item 1. So you can see right here, I think I've maybe even tried this before. I may have been working on this last time. So it's pulling the ID from the actual JToken document that's being passed in here. And I'm using that here to actually specify the ID. So that's how I'm actually getting this key in the first place, creating my Couchbase document. But I don't need that to stay in there. So what I tried was this. I think that fails. We'll step through it here. So I need to figure out a better way to remove that from the JToken. Okay, so here we are, we're at the document, and you can see, well, maybe it's hard to see, I guess, but if we look in here, you can see blog IDs here and IDs here. I don't need these to be here before I actually store this document. So I'm trying to remove ID. That, I think, is going to fail. Oh, maybe not. Yeah, there it is. It failed. So cannot add or remove. Man, this is a really small font. I want to zoom it. So cannot add or remove items from JSON.link.j property. Okay, so I'm clearly doing that part wrong. I need to figure out the best way to remove a field from a JToken. This is JToken. So I don't know, let's just try, we'll see what else is on here. We discovered something. Remove, and there's no parameters on that. Document. Okay, so I think we can look for some Newtonsoft documentation. JToken, remove property. The Michael Jolly, is this library open source software? Hey, thanks for joining us, Michael Jolly. Appreciate it. And absolutely it is open source. This is on GitHub. And if you are interested in playing with this and contributing to it, I welcome you to do this, because I have no idea what I'm doing. I have never built an entity framework provider before. And so absolutely is welcome. It is on, I can bring the link up here. Probably a good idea, huh? To actually show people. This is in my GitHub repository right now. This is not an official Couchbase Labs thing. It's not even there yet. Michael Jolly, I use EFCore with tons of our clients, so I'd love to help you out. And Michael Jolly, I would love for you to help me out. Any contribution would be amazing. But right here, You see github.com/mgroves/.net-couchbase-ef3. What I've done is I basically just copied and pasted the Cosmos DB provider, which is also in preview, and renamed it to Couchbase provider. And I've made some very, very slight changes to it. And I created a sample project in there. So yeah, please check that out. GitHub/mgroves/.net-couchbase-ef3. Go to town. Even if you're just going to create some unit tests or create an issue or identify what I should look at next, anything I would appreciate. I would love that, Michael Jolly. So thank you for that. What I'm working on right now is I'm trying to figure out how to get this ID field out of the document, because I don't need to store that as its own piece of data in Couchbase. So it is using Newtonsoft, right? This is a Newtonsoft class, JToken. So I need to figure out how to remove stuff from a JToken. So here's a JToken remove. Not much information there. Look at Stack Overflow. I know I've done this before. I just can't remember what exactly is the trick here. So, I mean, this is a whole thing, a whole method. But you think this would be something that's built in to Newtonsoft. JSON like the following. I want to strip out the underscore metadata. Yeah. Okay, so maybe he has multiple, and that's why he's looping through this. But let's just see what they've done here. So we start with this token. Token as J container. And then for each child, okay. Remove list, remove fields. So this is recursive. But, okay, so it's finding, all right. So maybe we say document.find. How does it do that? Each of the children. Document.children. Can I give a parameter to that? Is this .NET Core 3? Yes, it is. This is .NET Core 3. And this is Entity Framework Core 3, which is still in preview. Couchbase, we're also working on Entity Framework Core 2 provider. It's a separate effort from what I'm working on, though, right now. And that's going to be more of a sort of leverage what we already have. Where EFCore 3 is going to be sort of a rebuild kind of thing. I think .NET Core adds a new JSON parser, and they quit relying on Newtonsoft for that. So that's news to me. Yeah, so I mean, I copied, like I said, I copied this Entity Framework provider from the Microsoft Entity Framework repo, and it's using Newtonsoft, and they hired a James Newton King, so I'd be surprised if they dropped Newtonsoft, but I might have to look into that. Announcements. Okay, well, let's check this out. Check this link out here. Future of JSON in .NET Core 3. Make some changes to our JSON support. Okay. All right. Well, that's interesting news to me. This was 2018 though, so I don't know. I'll have to check this out some more. But as far as I know, Entity Framework Cosmos provider is still using Newtonsoft. I know for a fact that Couchbase library is still using Newtonsoft. I don't know if that's going to change or not in the future, based on what you've just enlightened me with, Michael Jolly. So I'll check that out. But in the meantime, let's just see if I can figure out how to remove this ID field from the JToken. I haven't used it, but I remembered reading it several months ago. All right, interesting. Children and ID. So, I don't know, ID element. And then ID element dot remove. There's no remove function there. Where was my, oh yeah, here we go. Hope it works as well. Newtonsoft was super easy. I mean, Newtonsoft is practically an industry standard. for .NET developers. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that works. Maybe it's just something they're using internally. I don't know. Field can remove fields. el.remove. So this is a J token. Does this remove this? This returns. Okay, interesting. Just set it first for now, so that I can say .remove. Now this is dangerous right here, but let's just try it. I should wrap that in an exists check, perhaps. Okay. And looks like that didn't work. Let's try that again. Let's see what document children actually returns. It's this breakpoint here, and we'll go to the immediate window and say document.children. Yeah. To list. Okay, so it's in there. Dot first. Through an exception. Huh. Okay. Also through an exception, invalid. So that's clearly not the right approach. Maybe I have to do this. I don't know if that makes any sense, but let's just see what happens. So I can access it by this, what do you call it? Tokenizer deal. Is that going to return something? So that returns something. It's returning. Oh, interesting. This is, what is this type? Is this just a string? Well, no wonder why that wouldn't work. It was just returning a string. Whoops. Can I say, well, can I say parent? And then remove it? Seems kind of a roundabout way to do it, but if it works, it works. Oops. Okay. So that is... All right, and is it removed? Yeah, cool. All right, well, that worked. Good. So if I run my sample program, it finishes running, executes, and over here, I should, oh, it logged me out. I should have a new document in my EF test bucket that does not have an ID. And there we go. Sweet. Sweet. All right. So I probably want to wrap this in something like if document, is there it exists or contains or something. Like what if this was ID foo? That should fail. Just want to try to make this a little bit more resilient, a little bit more robust, just in case sometime in the future the ID field isn't actually there. I want to break everything. So what does this return? Returns null, so that's going to be a null reference exception. So this should be easy enough to do. We can just say if document, whoops, ID not equals null. Put those in there. And so we can say document has ID field. Just make this a little more readable. So if the document ID is there, we'll remove it. And we're going to do the same thing for the oh, this doesn't be ID foo, it should be ID. All right, so the other thing that's getting stored in there is, if you notice, this blog ID field is getting stored in there. And that's coming from right here. That's just the object itself. So since that is marked as the key, again, in certain databases, you may want this to happen. But in Couchbase, the key is separate from the actual document itself. So I want to remove that from the document that I'm saving. Unreal eMirror, now hosting my stream. Hey, thank you very much, Unreal eMirror. I appreciate that. Some berries and cream for you. Even though we're having some stream troubles today, I'm dropping some frames and stuff. But hey, thanks for coming by and checking things out. Let's check in on our Twitch bot here. Storing all kinds of interesting stuff. So Streamlabs and Unreal Mirror and the Michael Jolly. Storing my data in the Couchbase bucket. Yeah, there we go. 419 messages. So the Twitch bot is cranking along just fine. So hey, thanks for hosting. Appreciate that, and thanks for checking out the stream. All right. So at this point, we've got about half an hour left. I think that's probably enough time to figure out how not to store this blog ID field in there. Now the problem with that, I mean, I can't just do the same thing here, right? I could literally do this. Put blog ID here and blog ID here. Bing, bada boom. And Unreal Mirror, thanks for the follow. Bada bing, bada boom to you. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. So I could literally do that, but the problem with that is that this is, you know, if I'm storing something besides a blog, if I'm storing a post or I'm storing a shopping cart, that's not going to work. So I need to be able to identify which field is marked as the key, so I know which one to remove. And so I need to figure out the key name, if one exists. And there could be multiple, honestly. Literally, there could be multiple key names assigned, never used. Oh yeah, right here. Multiple in there, so probably key names. Make that a list, a string, and one was going to be blog ID hard-coded. We don't want that, of course. Let me say for each key name in key names. Loop through that and do this process here. Which I wish there was a cleaner way to do this, but document has key name field. If it does, then remove it. And this one, we'll call this key name element. All right, so that'll work. I just need to get the key names. All the fields that are marked with key. So in this case, it's only blog ID, but I can, in Entity Framework, you can configure a sort of a compound key. You select multiple fields from your entity class and combine them to be a key. And so I don't, you know, I already have the code to handle that, so it'll actually take the values and store them as the key, but I don't want to store the individual parts in the Couchbase document behind the scenes. So I need to figure out how to get the key names from here. And I'm wondering if that data is somehow in this token. I don't think so, but because that would be metadata. So it might make sense to actually remove those at some other point. My food is here. I got to go. Have fun coding. All right. Enjoy on Unreal eMirror. Enjoy your food. Thank you for the follow and thanks for the host. And have a good meal. I just got a message from my wife, and she says, "Tell the kids to do laundry and dishes." Well, I didn't tell them to do laundry, but I did tell them to do dishes already, and they're already doing them. So I'm already ahead of the game. Husband of the year right here. All right, so I think this may not be the right place to do this. It may be the right place to do the ID field, because I need that to actually insert the document into the bucket. But I don't need it to keep that in here. So I know that there's some other way, like it's a key, store key convention maybe, where it is finding the keys. Somewhere in here, I think, is where I want to do this. So I want to step through this, see how this works. Just want to get an idea of what it's doing. So entity type builders blog, yes. Fine, and I don't think that's going to be, oh, it is going to go in there. So ID property, yeah. And yeah, we're good there. So this is doing the stuff I expect it to do. Entity type builder. So metadata is what I think I want to look at here. It's not keyless. So are there keys in there? We'll just see what I can find out with little IntelliSense. Entity type builder. Has key. Has key. What? Okay, I don't know what that one does. Primary key. Okay, I don't know what arguments that takes. Let's see. Remove key. See, I'm wondering if, it's not keyless, right? It's a document root, that's true. So it goes here and it finds the ID property name, which is called underscore ID. Has key convention. Let me go through here again. Yeah, that's fine. All right, let's try it one more time. I'm wondering if store key convention is the right place. I want to get to a point in the code where I'm able to analyze. I have access to these attributes, this attribute metadata, and before I'm storing the object, to actually remove those. But after I get the value out of it, if that makes sense, to anybody except me and my crazy mind. All right. Has value generator. So has key and a property metadata. That might be. What is in metadata? Okay, this is just plain EFCore. I won't mess with that. The object property name is null. Entity type builder is blog. Convention. What is this? JObject property couchbase. Couchbase property, builder annotations. Value generated. Yeah, fine. Okay, well, I'm kind of trying to figure out where it's checking that, checking this key, this key attribute. just, I don't know. Let's just search for key attribute here in the whole solution and see where it's looking for it. So we'll leave it out of EFCore. Is it looking for anywhere in, okay, so it's only in EFCore. It's actually looking for that key attribute. That's foreign key stuff, key attribute convention. Yeah, this is where my knowledge of entity framework internals is just, you can see it on full display here. If you're an entity framework expert, I'm flailing right now. I don't really know where to look for this sort of thing. Now, if I had the actual blog class here, I might be able to write some reflection to interrogate it myself, but I don't have that. All I have is this J token. So where does this get called from? Is this called from entity framework itself? Yeah, but again, it's just with the J token. Create item. Couchbase data wrapper. Oh, okay. Maybe this is it right here. Create document. I think this is it. Oh, right. Okay. Okay. Good. I think I found the right place anyway. The right neighborhood. Let's step through this and see how this works. So you can see it's getting all the properties here, which is exactly what we want. Okay. Get all the properties. And it's going to convert them to what? What's happening here? I don't know what that error message was. Property name. So we've got this property, and it is this is the blog ID field here, right? Yep, blog ID. Okay, so I might be able to interrogate it here. And just not store it, basically. All right, so if property, hello, IntelliSense, property is key. Oh, interesting. That may be all we need right there. I just want to sort of set a breakpoint in there. I'm kind of curious if that is how that method works. Yeah, it's getting about that time for food, isn't it? Unreally Mirror, you got the right idea. I'm getting hungry. I've got a meeting at noon, unfortunately, though. So I've got to put off lunch till later. Okay. So this property is key. True. Okay. Good. What other properties are keys? Timestamp, is that a key? So we're at timestamp now. I'm guessing that's going to be a false. True. Okay. True that it is false. Okay, this one is type. This is the discriminator. That's not going to be a key either, I don't think. Right. Okay, what else is in there? The URL should not be a key. Good. And what else? I don't know what that is. Some sort of internal thing. I don't know. That's probably the ID. So that says it is a key. What's the store name? Yeah, ID. Okay. All right, so it seems like it might be a little hacky, but we're going to say if the property is a key, So,
Bada bing, bada boom.
thank you for the follow. Is Matt. Is underscore Matt. Thanks for checking us out. So, if the property is, if, I don't even know what to call this. Property is marked with key attribute equals property is key and the store name not equals ID. And so, if that is not the case, whoa, then I want to put it into my document. Otherwise, I want to omit it from the document. Is that going to, I think that's going to mess things up though. So it's only going to store it if it's a key. Okay. So that's not what I want. Okay. So I want to store everything in the document except for blog ID or post ID or whatever is marked as a key. So is property is a key. Property.is key. Okay. So if it's ID, I want to store it. If it's not ID and it's a key, I don't want to store it. If it's anything else, I want to store it. All right. So if it's not a key, then fine, store it. Absolutely. If property is a key and property is marked with the key attributes and not marked with the key attributes, then we're going to store it. Okay, so that's some wordy code right there. How can I reduce this down? Let's see. This is where I can resharper suggestion to come in. So if not A, this would be an else probably. What is this? Doesn't like. Expression is always true. Oh, okay. So thank you, resharper. So would this be good enough? Probably a good place for a unit test, right? So if the property is not a key or the property is not marked with a key attribute, then we store it. I think that's right, but I would definitely have a unit test around this. Okay, let's go over here. I want to check out my data actually being stored. Buckets, EF test, we'll just clear these out. And run, see what happens. Any exceptions? Looks like it exited properly. And what's in here? I would expect blog ID to not be in here. Boom. Nailed it. All right, I probably didn't nail it, but so I'm going to say don't store the ID value in the document, but don't store any properties that have been, don't store any object properties that contain the key values. Okay, so this would be a great place to check the unit tests, if there is a unit test for that. I don't see one. I don't see anything calling this directly in the test. So Probably should create a test for this. Can I get a test done in 15 minutes? Don't know. We'll see. So this is in the update internal. Wait, EFCore update internal document source. Huh? There's an update folder? Document source, but there's no test folder for that, so we'll create one. Update internal, and we'll call it how do you usually structure these? Well, I guess we'll just call it for now, we'll call it document source tests. And this is using XUnit for tests, which I'm not too experienced with. I'm mostly in NUnit. That's what most of my experience is, NUnit and some MSpec, but not so much with XUnit. But that's what they're using, so let's stick with that. So it's just a class, and you put facts on it. Okay. Okay. Okay, so document source, and we're testing create document. So create document should remove properties marked as keys. So I'm going to create myself a little internal class here, I guess. And well, they're using sandwiches, right? There's Big Mac and the Big Mac with a K and a Whooper. So I could keep doing that, but let's do something. Let's just do blog. That's fine. And we have key, not castle data annotations. Yeah. Blog ID. Yep, that's good. How about this I update entry? Maybe I don't even need a class, because this I update entry is what I'm testing here. So we got our range, our act, and assert. So we're going to arrange, and this is going to be the update entry equals. And am I using a mocking framework in here? I'm wondering. See a lot of XUnits. I don't see any mocking. I'm surprised there's no mocking. Mock entry type assembly. Mock assembly. Okay, where is that? Oh, okay. Some sort of mock for reflection. That's pretty wild. Yeah, I don't see a mocking framework being used here, so I may want to introduce one. But for right now, I could just do a, I don't know, mock, what is this? Mock I update entry? If this isn't too, update entry, if this isn't too crazy. That's pretty crazy. That's a lot of stuff for me to deal with. All right, well, I'm bringing in mock. Why not? My project. I'm bringing it in. You can't stop me. I'll take you down with me. Mock. I really like just mock from Telerik. But I don't know if there's a .NET Core version of it yet. And mock is one that's a little more well known. Oh, I don't have the, darn it. It's looking at the wrong NuGet package source. And for some reason it's decided to lock up Visual Studio. Yak shaving. Welcome to another episode of Yak Shaving. Live yak shaving. Well, we got about 10 minutes left, so maybe I will just leave this for later. Get that test written and get this thing committed. Since Visual Studio doesn't want to cooperate. So I guess what I can do in the meantime. Oh, there it goes. I don't even have NuGet as an option here. Error occurred. Yeah, lovely. Okay. All right, so I thought maybe what I can do is, I don't have a ton of viewers right now, but it's always nice to do a little bit of a raid when you finish up your live stream. So right now it's C# Fritz, and he's up to 111, raiding with one viewer. I don't know if it was really worth it, but we can give it a try. So I tried raiding last stream, and I got some error messages from Twitch. So we're going to head on over to C# Fritz and do a little raid. I don't have any sort of thing for you to paste or defend. I don't know what any of that stuff means. So I'm just going to basically, we're going to throw it over to C# Fritz, even though he might even be closing it up for the day. But thank you very much for joining me. We'll pick up with this again on Thursday, do some Entity Framework stuff now that I've got the latest or a much newer internal build here going. Dealt with some of the issues we found last stream. So raid C# Fritz. Head on over there. I got a meeting at noon, so I probably can't stay very long for that. And I'm guessing he's probably almost closing up his stream as well. I don't know what his schedule is today. So anyway, thanks for joining me, and we'll see you over there on C# Fritz's channel, assuming this works okay. If not, have a good day.
A little bit better because I can put the times over here for each hour, and over here I'll actually create the grid. Is going to read it. Thank you for the raid, Matt. I appreciate the raid.